Okay. Because we so it is almost 7 o'clock. So we're going to get started. Pledge of allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, as you guys all probably know, we're here to mostly talk about the private roads. We do have a couple other things, something really short before that. We're going to start with, so last time, for people who weren't here, there's 5 sections on the proposed ordinance, and we got through 3 of them. So we're going to start with 4.1 today. For that. Well, first, you have to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
A second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, call to the public. Oh, so we're gonna do 3 minutes each. Right, so, anything you wanna talk about? Okay.
Please say your name and address.
Hi, my name is Andrew Picnic. I live on Lucy Drive, and I am affected by the, what's that?
Well, is that one not on, right?
Can you guys hear? All right. My name is Andrew Picnic. I live on Lucy Drive, and I am affected by the private road ordinance as it stands. I'd like to start by thanking everyone acting in good faith so far as part of their jobs and livelihood. I appreciate the communication and openness from township officials. But I have a big problem with the ordinance. The new ordinance is largely the same when you look at it as far as how long, how wide the roads need to be. I mean, there's some silly things in there like it needs to be deeper, and I guess we're not allowed to use petroleum asphalt anymore, but I digress. Those differences are not that important to me. It makes me wonder, well, why is this endeavor, why is this being undertaken? Then I realized when reading the old ordinance, it seems that a resolution had to be passed for any actions taken against grandfathered roads. And this is a significant burden for the township, I understand that, but that's currently in the citizens' favor. And as a citizen, I like that. So now, this new ordinance inverts that, and citizen actions trigger an automatic non-compliance. And we have to beg for mercy from the zoning board of appeals, and whoever sits on the board with you guys, whenever that time may come. So, I find both laws quite burdensome and capricious for new construction, but particularly foul for folks living on their non-compliant roads for decades. If emergency vehicles can reach my house, if they can't reach my house right now, should I pay my taxes today on the way out? If they can reach my house, well then why are we discussing this ordinance? If you feel the same way, I've created a site, websteract.com, that's websteract.com, all one word, where we will continue to organize against this petty action. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Devin Chamberlain. I'm also on Lucy Drive. Just want to echo some of the words that Andrew had already said. I think this is a severe government overreach, and I just want to voice my opposition to the ordinance. I think that, as I said at last month meeting, a lot of these people bought these homes in good faith. And I think for you to change the rules after the fact is fundamentally wrong. Can you hear me?
No, we're saying yes.
Yes.
We agree.
So I think that, as you can see, things are starting to organize in the township. And I don't think that people are going to stand by idly while we have the rules changed on us for private roads. I think you need to grandfather these existing private roads in and be done with it. Otherwise, this is not going to be a short discussion. Thank you.
My name is Sherry Austin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I also live on Lucy Drive. I was here last month also. And I expressed my concern about this being endangerment to trees and cost prohibitive. I counted the trees on my street today. It was such a nice day. Went for a walk. Oh, about 300 trees would have to be cut down to come into compliance with the new ordinance as it is in these new amendments. And it would be cost prohibitive for me as a retiree on a fixed income. If someone were to split the lot down the street from me, as it reads now, I would be responsible for having to bring the road up to the existing ordinance standards. I don't have the money for that. I like where I live. I want to stay where I live. I wouldn't have, I don't want to be forced out of my house because of this ordinance becoming enforced. And I understand it hasn't been really enforced in the past. Lived there for 34 years. The road's been there for 40 years. We've had ambulances, police, fire trucks down the street with no problem. So I don't understand the public safety aspect of it being a danger if they're already coming down the street with no problem. The Webster Area Fire Department has, I believe it was 25,000 residents that it serves, and Webster Township is a portion of that total. Last year, 2024, there were 127 runs by the fire department. That works out to 0.5% total for runs. I'm in favor of public safety. If you calculate out just Webster Township, that percentage falls way less. So I am in favor of grandfathering non-conforming existing roads. I don't see a problem with the road that we have. We maintain it. And just want to thank you and hope you keep that under consideration.
Hi everyone, my name is David Joseph. I own property on 3195 East Pillar.
So I've been attending these meetings for some time, as we've been going through the process and trying to build on what's been deemed a non-conforming road. Started attending these meetings when it was maybe me and another person that was in this room, as we were discussing the intent of why the private road ordinance needed to be reviewed, possibly needed to be rewritten, amended. So on the ordinance right now, I have the opportunity to benefit from Article 4.3, which would allow me to build on my property with still some contingencies upon review of does any other improvements need to be made or within my power or by the township. So I would challenge this group as we've been going through this, like today, to understand why are we doing what we're doing. I feel like we started with a very clear intention and now we have like deep concern, borderline outrage from the community on a small problem that we were trying to solve for me and a handful of other families. And now we've created something giant, and I don't know what we're trying to fix here. I would love to build on the property that I've owned now for some time and have not been able to get approval to do so. Everybody in this room, I think, nods and agrees, if you don't put it in writing, that it's reasonable for me to build on the property that I've purchased. It just asks for the accountability of this group, right? You don't need to be in for a penny, in for a pound. What's the problem we're trying to solve, and how do we get there? Thank you.
Thank you.
You got this. Hi,
Hi.
my name is Linda Lost-Catal, and
I'm sorry, could you?
my name is Linda Lost-Catal, and I live on Merkle Court, which is off of Merkle. I live on Merkle Court, which is off of Merkle Road. And
There you go.
I've tried to read the current ordinance, and I've tried to read what you're proposing. I will admit to not understanding all of what is written there or what some of the terminology suggests and what it means. But I would like to know, is there something in this new ordinance that would help neighbors resolve a problem when some neighbors are not in compliance and with their driveways, and their driveways are washing out our private road, and we do not have cooperation from them? Is there someone to whom we turn? Is this the proper forum? Who do we call? Who comes up? We had someone come out 2 years ago. We have lots of pictures. This is 2 years old, and we still have the problem. And this person that came out talked about water off of the roofs of the two new houses. It's from two new construction houses. But he didn't address the water flowing off of their driveways, which is where the erosion starts and where the big channel and the big gully of water washes off of the driveway, and our cars have to go through huge gullies to get out. I just want to know who helps. I don't see a show of hands. I mean, do we come to you? Is there something in the new ordinance that would address resolution of problems between owners? Because I didn't see anything in there. And if I did, if I missed it, then please direct me to the right article or paragraph.
We can comment on all this after public comment.
Oh, you're not allowed to talk to me.
No, well, later.
You're not allowed to answer questions. Is that what you're saying?
Right now it's a monologue.
Monologue.
Yeah,
Oh,
right now
my
it's a
goodness.
monologue.
Okay. Well, I'm sure I've used up my 3 minutes. But who would I? Okay.
After the meeting, you can talk.
After the meeting?
Or at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Oh, 8 o'clock. Okay, because last time I was here a month ago, it was after 10 o'clock, and I don't think I was.
Understand.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your listening and all of you.
Good evening, Peter Stevens, 7500 Trotters Lane. I will just reiterate my comments from last meeting. As many people have said here today, one of the biggest sticking points in the community seems to be the board's idea that they will suddenly take people's roads that have been in existence for multiple decades in some cases, and with the stroke of a pen, as this is a policing ordinance, immediately make those roads essentially criminally illegal, as they can then be tried as a civil infraction under this ordinance. That can lead to court and lawyers and excess costs in that way. What this would suggest is that people who've had these roads should just have them grandfathered. If people have property that they own and would like to split for their family or for themselves, that should be allowed without requiring these roads to be updated to a somewhat arbitrary standard. One of the things that I have found myself wondering is people keep asking the question of why are we doing this? I've heard public safety. I've heard that 2 fire trucks need to be able to pass each other in opposite directions going down a road to and from a fire. And what I've not heard this board discuss at all is any situation, circumstance, or individual happening where a house in Webster Township was unable to be serviced by public safety officials or services. That is something I would love to hear this board potentially comment on this evening. If this is in the name of public safety, what and whose public safety has been endangered in the past because of the current standards and the current roads that people live on. Thank you.
Any more public comment? Yep.
Hi, I'm Robin. I live over on West Pillar Road. We have a lot of our neighbors here today. Obviously, this would affect all of us as well. We do not have a road that is compliant with what is being proposed. We have had emergency vehicles pass, fine, and turn around on our streets. I do not believe that this is something that anybody, maybe there's a handful, I can't speak for everybody, but this is a huge financial burden that just would really crush some families in our neighborhood. So I really hope that we can consider the grandfathering in of the existing roads. And I pretty much can echo everything everybody else has said here. So thank you all for being here tonight and doing this special meeting as well. I appreciate it.
Hi, my name's John. I'm Robin's neighbor on West Pillar. And we did have a fire, I think it was in 2020. The neighbor's chicken coop caught on fire. We could see it out our bedroom window. We called them, woke them up. Fire trucks got there, no problem. Police cars got there, no problem. And I live, mind you, on one of these, you know, I share a drive. We have a very long shared driveway. So there seemed to be no issue whatsoever. The only house that burned down that I know of, we've lived there since 1998, was the one on the corner of Pillar and Jennings Road. And when that burned down, you had Jennings Road where you could fit 3 fire trucks across it. It wasn't the road width that was the problem. The problem was there was no water. And, you know, so if you want to make people safe, I know it's outrageously expensive, but let's plumb some water in there for everybody, okay? I mean, that would really make things safer than winding roads. Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
David Burnell, I live on Base Lake Road. I have this question. I read the ordinance, and what I am confused about is that you refer to vacant lots all the time. But what I'm wondering is anything in the township that anybody has to pull a site plan review for, be an addition on their home or reconstructing a deck or any of those things, and you have to go to the Washtenaw County Road Commission for a waiver for what you're doing, is that going to trigger this where everybody now on the whole street is going to have to go ahead and now bring a non-compliant road up to the standard that you're proposing? So some of these people may not have vacant lots, but if they're going to put an addition on, is that going to trigger this? And that's my question.
Hi, my name is John Tucker, my wife's Thelma. She's on the Webster community site. Anyways, my question is, I own a big piece of land at the end of one of these roads. Now, if I decide to approve that land, are they, all my neighbors gonna have to improve all of their land, probably 3,000 feet of road, so that I can improve my land, which makes my land pretty useless? So that's the only thing I want to say.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's very, very simple. Leave well enough alone.
Any more public comments? Oh.
Wendy Gladwelter, Lucy Drive. Besides the 300 trees that need to be removed, our utilities are 4 feet off our road. Our neighbor got a quote about 10 years ago to remove one telephone pole, and it was $10,000. Needless to say, we planted pine trees in front of it instead. We can't afford to remove this on a half-mile-long road. We're talking about 10 telephone poles, electric, gas, cable, everything. It's, the price is exorbitant.
Anybody else? Okay. Comments of board members? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I've lived in this township for 45 years. And 35 years ago, I had a fire. And the fire department was able to get to my house. Through the years, I've had ambulances come to my house for my mother and for myself. And they got in just fine down Pillar Drive West. So I think it should just be grandfathered in for the roads as they are.
Okay, now comments of board members.
Anybody? Well, first off, I'll start, there's a bunch of comments here. I'll talk to, at the highest level, the reason we're here is that the current ordinance as written, in my view, hasn't been enforced. So there's sections in there, if you go to sections 4, 5, and 6B, it covers private roads, shared driveways, and so on. So if we were to leave it as is, the problem we have with some of the folks trying to build now, they are all of a sudden held hostage. Is that because the way the ordinance is written is that you want to build right now, you have to approve the road up to this, with diagrams that reference oceans for the various road safety standards, which doesn't seem reasonable. The last person in shouldn't have to pay for everything. It's been going on for 20-some plus years. My view is, like I said, the residents did nothing wrong. The question I think the board should address, and when we get to later in the agenda, is who pays for all this?
Yeah.
Right? And that's the fundamental thing I'd be asking if I was on one of those roads. So if we haven't been enforcing it for this long, it's a public policy deficiency that should be addressed by this public body. But we're going to find out, the public body, based on the way the state laws are written, you can't pay. So that then leaves who? So that leaves the residents, in my view, should not have to pay for all this. Look at it. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, so we can't use the word grandfather for this, but it's a variance that could be granted globally. And I think that's one thing we're going to discuss as to how that gets handled. And then for everybody that has a road, in my view, or has a place there, they should be able to get the building right away. If there is improvements to be made by large splits, my view is possibly some sliding scale potentially. That's what I'm hoping the board discusses. On Merkle Court, I'm also the Public Roads Committee Chair, and I've been on all the roads, everything. The public roads aren't the standard by which to measure everything also. There's equally trouble there as far as how wide they should be able to get trucks back and forth as quickly as possible. And the Merkle Court's exceptional. It's probably some of the steepest area in the township, that whole Walsh, Merkle, Donovan area. And that washout there, I've been on it. I got a 4-wheel drive truck. It was all I could do to get over it. So I would think if you can, come in and talk to the township, we'll figure out what's going on. Because you could equally say, that washout shouldn't be here. If we met the standards that were in our current ordinance, that we're not met. We'll get back to that. Those are the big items I see. I hope the board will talk about those items in greater detail.
John, do you want to say anything? Okay, I'm gonna, just because I have to kind of clarify a little bit, as it stands, even before we do anything, for the people who are, doing an addition or anything, none of this applies to that. It's all basically just either building on a lot or splitting lots at this point. So, I guess I just want to clarify that part. Yeah.
One more?
Can I ask a question? What I really want to know is this, if say my well goes out, I have to get a permit for the well in, will this affect like those?
No, doesn't affect that.
Okay.
So the rest of what I was just gonna say is, because I'm the person people call, and I have yet to hear one person say the road is not wide enough, one person say that they can't have anyone, that they've had a problem with fire, police, or anything getting into the roads, and the comments about existing roads have been overwhelmingly 100% negative with respect to this proposed ordinance. So, we have heard you, or I've heard you. Okay.
I do have comments, but I didn't necessarily want to go at the front end of the batting order.
Oh, yeah.
My name's John Scharf. I'm the treasurer here at the township. I'm also on the DAFD Fire Board where I serve as the treasurer as well and have for several years. So that has put me in the unique position of being able to actually go on runs with the fire department in fire trucks. I've had the privilege of having been in a fire truck on my driveway, which does not comply with the draft language. Talking to one of the lieutenants who I have deep respect for, said that the first problem that they face when they're on a run is not being able to see the house number. Either the house number isn't where it should be, or the grass has grown up and obscures the house number. The second thing that I've been told is that there is an issue with overhead clearance. The trucks are tall. The equipment that's on the top of the truck is very fragile and very expensive. And so I do support making sure that we have at least 14 foot of clearance over the top of the trucks. I would ask the question that was asked by several of the public comments about why are we doing this? When it comes to fire response, the biggest challenge is we don't have water. And I do think that there are opportunities for us to look at providing water, perhaps requiring in-house sprinkling on new construction, perhaps investing money on developing dry fire hydrants so that we have some water available, so that the trucks don't have to go as far away to fill their truck after they've emptied it on your structure. We bring about 2,500 to 3,000 gallons of water in a truck. That water can be sprayed out of the truck in about 30 seconds. I don't personally believe that a driveway has to be very wide or a road has to be very wide for a fire truck to get in. One of the things that we do have to have are turnarounds so that the trucks can turn around and leave. And that is a big deficiency that I see. In the packet for our last meeting, we had language from one of the townships in Livingston County, which is a good benchmark language for us. That language governs that township's shared driveways and private roads, but all of that language is in their zoning ordinance. And zoning ordinance, by their nature, from the Zoning Enabling Act, automatically provides for grandfathering. And so my personal opinion is that if we make changes, they should be made and reflected in the zoning ordinance. The police power ordinance, in my opinion, should be restricted only for private roads. And a private road is by definition something that serves 4 or more houses. I am deeply concerned about the number of trees that could be lost, and I'm also deeply concerned about the costs that it would impose or could impose. So I hear you, and I agree with most of what was said at the microphone tonight.
Thanks, John. Dan?
I would like to thank you all for being here this evening. It's a beautiful summer evening, and I'm sure there are many other things you'd rather be doing. So thanks, and appreciate the comments. I think we're trying to find a reasonable solution that corrects some of the challenges with the existing zoning ordinance and allowing people to move forward. And as John noted, a big factor is ensuring there's access and ability for emergency services that are provided mostly for medical, where you'll have a large apparatus arrive, ambulance arrive, sheriff vehicles arrive. So, you know, yeah, they may be able to get in, maneuver, but if there's a call, a duplicate call at the same time, they've got to get out. So there are challenges with that and limitations with, you know, many of the roads, private roads that exist. And so is there an opportunity to enhance them slightly, being reasonable, but yet greatly improve the ability to provide improved safety services to our community and your neighbors? That's what we're trying to find a solution for.
And thanks for coming. I'm happy to see so many people at one of our meetings. Shout out to the West Pillar crowd.
And Lucy.
Well, I lived on West Pillar. So, and as a matter of fact, I lived on West Pillar and I had a medical emergency and there were lots of fire trucks and ambulances there as a baby. So I know they can get around, but I do appreciate Dan's point that they need to be able to get out quickly if there's another emergency. And my house was not on fire, so I didn't have to have heavy trucks in and out. I would worry about that. I do think it seems to me the biggest issue of contention that I've heard from residents is the wideness of the road and how expensive that will be. And I can tell you that some of the people on this board live on private roads. I live on a private road, and I don't think that my road is wide enough, and my road is paved. So in order to make it wide enough, I'd have to tear it up and redo it if somebody wanted to split property on where I live. So we are in the same boat you are, is what we're saying. Only we have to be responsible for public safety. So we're trying to find the balance that says that we're not putting anyone at risk. You might agree with all the things on your road, but that doesn't mean the next person will. And so we have to make sure that everybody's road is equally accessible, so to speak. That doesn't mean everybody's road has to be equally as wide or equal. It just means they have to meet a modicum of safety so that fire and ambulance can get down there and get out quickly.
Okay. All right. Now we have to, if we're going with public or board comments, we actually have to go to something hopefully really fast. So the first thing we have to do is, it's actually supposed to be power plan security grant. So Chuck has been looking into cameras, additional cameras, and one of the ones hopefully will point over towards the recycling. So this is in front of you is the estimate for the cost of what Chuck's been looking into. So we don't need to talk about that specifically tonight. But so Power Plant has a grant available for up to $2,500 for this kind of security enhancement. So unfortunately, we have to have a resolution, like let's see, what does it say? It just, specific to your grant cycle request. So, that's what I'm asking for tonight is a resolution to allow us to apply for this park plan grant.
Yeah, so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? First.
Does this mean we will apply or we may apply?
So we will apply, Chuck's already got the application pretty much done, so we just need the resolution to go with it. So we have a motion and a second discussion.
Just a question, what is the anticipated total expense?
Oh, so the total expense is $10,045, but we don't.
I don't guess that's in your.
Oh. Oh, sorry. I thought I gave everybody one. So, but we don't actually have to accept this particular quote. We just have to
There's just an estimate.
request that we can kind of contingent even purchasing anything on getting the grant from what Chuck and I can tell.
So it's a total of 13 cameras?
Yeah, something like that.
It'd be 12 cameras.
Sorry?
12 cameras. So it would be 9 indoor-outdoor cameras, 2 fixed Tourette cameras, and 1 hand-tilt zoom, automatic hand-tilt
Yeah.
zoom.
Yeah, that's it, but this is just to give him approval, right, for the grant.
Yeah, I know, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, but if you were, like, in the future, didn't like something financially, we're not approving that, just approving, giving him the right to write the grant.
Yeah, Dan, like I put this on next week, so it'll give us a chance to look at it for a whole week, you know. So,
Thank you.
okay. Any other discussion? Okay. So guess.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Okay, now the road. So, tree, or you? I see a projector, so I'm assuming.
You can start with the introduction if you want.
Oh, okay. So we're at Article 4. We're going to talk about 4.1, which is the intent. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at this part. My suggestion to Sri when I first read it was for D to move from 4.1 over to 5 because it deals with maintenance of a road. Other than that, I didn't have anything in 4.1.
I have a couple, just questions.
Okay.
B, public safety, we introduced the non-compliant access or non-conforming access, and I don't know what the difference between those two things is.
Okay, that would be a trick question.
So a non-compliant access is something that came into existence without a permit and it does not conform with the current standards. Non-conforming is something that a permit was approved. For example, private roads in the current ordinance is 18 feet, the new ordinance is 20 for new roads. That would be a non-conforming.
Yeah, that makes sense, thank you. And then in C, it says, a notice and compliance procedure balances the need. A notice and compliance procedure is that what you're referencing when we get, okay, to 4.5?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure.
Can we ask a question on that?
So for the chair.
Sure, go ahead. Thanks, Mike. If it is non-compliant, and you issue the compliance procedure, could you effectively shut down the road for all individuals on that road?
That is definitely not listed as a possibility.
No, I don't know. Yeah.
So if they have non-compliant, you guys issue a procedure that says you are in non-compliance, you red light it or whatever you guys do to it, and then they don't take action on it, what's the remedy? And it depends on what the issue is, but let's say that it's an issue that there's no turnaround or whatever it is. And would you shut the access to the road so those homeowners can't get in and out of the property?
No, there's nothing about that. There's nothing about it. Closing the road.
So what is this non-compliant procedure, what does that include?
It's section 4.4. So we'll get to that section.
Okay.
Mike? One general thought, I guess I'd like to hear some of the comments on the board members. We have a ton of language here that I think needs adjusting in a big way based on a lot of comments that we've heard here and so on. Where does the board members stand on who pays for these changes? My view is that the residents did nothing wrong. In the absence of the township being able to commit to trying to change it, legally that sounds like that's off the table, is that they should be granted a variance as is. Is that, and then the language should reflect that.
Brand, I'd just like to let you know that I don't think they should be bothered at all.
I agree.
If they're on a private road and they're happy with their private road, they should be left alone.
I agree. Is that we should write that in, is the board, if we're in agreement with that, I'd like to give the direction to Sri and Matt to write that in as a global variance for all that exists.
So do you, when you say that, do you mean that, to your point, we do nothing, we get rid of this private road ordinance altogether? So what happens for new buildings?
No, I wouldn't get rid of it forever. I would grant it as a variance, or we can issue a variance for all existing up front. Have language, that's a question for you, Matt. Can we have a paragraph in there where we could do that all in one fell swoop?
I think you two are talking two different things, or maybe talking the same thing but using two different terms. What Tony is saying is that in the zoning language, that all existing roads should be grandfathered. So when you want something to be grandfathered, there's no variance procedure, they just grandfather.
Yeah, but in police powers, the concept of grandfathering doesn't exist, but we can do it.
Unless we put it in the ordinance that they are grandfathered. It's not by default.
Fine. Whatever the language is
What
for
does
that.
that mean for us? So being grandfathered is one thing.
All right, wait, sorry, so I'll just answer, grandfathering means basically you're set with what you have. So,
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt for a second.
Right.
We have a lot to get through.
Right, so
we
yeah, we'll
don't
have to do
typically take questions during the work that we have to do because we're mandated by the law to get some of these things done during a short meeting. There is an opportunity for comments or questions at the end, And of course, you can stop any one of us at the end of the meeting and chat with us,
Yeah,
but
we're here
we
afterwards.
can't,
That's all.
yeah, we are gonna have a public hearing once we get this draft in a more final version. At that point, it's gonna be, or a public meeting, not a hearing, but it's gonna be more, you know, give and take, where you can talk to us and we can answer you.
Okay, so my point on what Tony was getting at, I'm in agreement. I mean, the only thing where I think you have the discussion if there's multiple splits. If there's one split, for example, there's language in here for some local improvement. If there's a lot of splits, like a new subdivision, I would see that, you know, some type of sliding scale.
That's a different situation, in my opinion. If we have a developer coming in with a site condo or a subdivision, they're treated differently. They are, according to the zoning ordinance, they're treated, they have to submit all sorts of documents.
But there's a land division act that you could have 10 splits, for example. And I would think, 10 splits would be treated differently than one split. But then the variance procedure or the sliding scale, we have the option to find some reasonable solution that's mutually agreeable, as opposed to the way it's written now. I'd like to, whatever the consensus of the board is, maybe give direction, those two, to make this reflect. Okay.
John, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Because I'm back to the fire trucks that we just spent a really lot of money for. When you talked with the fire staff about driving and the sensitive stuff at the top, how often do you think they were encountering that issue? They said it was one of the more common things, but how does that mean?
So the conversation came up when we pulled into my driveway, and I thought it was wide open because everything is miles from my truck, right? But I don't have a truck that's tall, that's that tall. Fun fact, our trucks are all designed to fit under the viaduct in Dexter, so they don't necessarily have to be 14 feet, but 14 feet is really what we need to ensure that after the branches grow for a month, they're still not going to hit the trucks. But we pulled into my driveway, and yes, there was small brush rubbing on the truck. And I went out later that day and I cut it. And I had to cut a lot. I had to reach pretty high. But I am definitely sympathetic to the overhead clearance, and I am painfully aware of how expensive the equipment is. And I'd like to keep it lasting as long as possible with as few repairs as possible. Okay. I would like to say though, I did make a comment in my response to the public comment of, there were a lot of comments about grandfathering. And as I mentioned, the benchmark language from one of the townships in Livingston is in their zoning ordinance. And I will try again to lobby that, for sure, I think driveway regulation should be part of the zoning ordinance.
It's already in it. Oh, sorry.
It just seems like that's the case, and yet the driveway or the public road ordinance that we are allegedly amending now is the public road, or private road, and shared driveway ordinance. I think it all could be in the zoning ordinance, and I think it all should be in the zoning ordinance. And one of the reasons I think that is because if people want to go through an application for some sort of variance, they're going to have to come to the board. And frankly, we are not as good at doing those kind of reviews, and we don't have the already existing structure to do those reviews as the Zoning Board of Appeals. It was mentioned at public comment that people would have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, not if it's a police power ordinance. So I think there's numerous reasons why this has no business being a police power ordinance and every reason to be in the zoning ordinance.
Can I respond to that, please? Yeah, well, we've already talked about Article 5. I recommend, John, you reread it, as well as the audience. It already covers shared driveways, and along with Section 6B. The problem is we haven't been enforcing it for the last 20 years, so nobody knows. And so from that standpoint, I think a lot of discussions, zoning ordinance or private roads, is somewhat semantics. We can actually get to the point where, as far as the public's concerned, that both of them are encompassed. Interestingly enough, though, the standards of review that's in the Zoning Board of Appeals is vetted by this body. We're the ones that set it. And we have the same zoning board of appeals standards included in the draft here. Albeit, I think it's better written. I think the current zoning board of appeals language is in dire need of an update. And that's something the board could approve here at some point, take a look at it some. But it's all here. Section 4 covers private roads. Section 5 is shared driveways. Problem is, it doesn't say shared driveways. Then it references the 6B, which then wants to have a professional engineer sign off on the shared driveway to make sure public safety and fire trucks can get in. So we're just cleaning all that up and putting it in one document. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Matt.
Quick question for Brandon. When you say section 5, are you talking about the existing ordinance?
Yeah, the whole one.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
And then,
go ahead, yes.
John, I wanted to offer some insight to where I understand you coming from. I would agree that generally, I think driveways are in the zoning ordinances rather than our private road ordinance. One of the knock-on effects of potentially doing that would be shared driveways would then generally not create frontage. And so if you split a lot and you have a back lot whose only access is by shared driveway, that would not be an approvable split because it wouldn't have frontage. Having the shared driveways in this ordinance, one of the things that, as I understand it, that it's doing is allowing those shared driveways to create frontage and allow / not create a problem for a backlot split of that nature.
So I agree with what you said, but I also don't believe frontage should be a requirement. I think easement access should be the only requirement.
Okay, I gotta drag us back to the actual article. So I think we should put at this point, probably put a pin in C for 4.1, because that kind of refers to the other stuff we're going to talk about in a bit. So does anyone have a problem with moving the D over to maintenance?
I don't have a problem, but.
Are we going to go through this paragraph by paragraph?
Well, section by section.
Okay.
This is what we did, but.
Can I just step out for a second? Because John said, leave it alone. Tony said, leave it alone. Some of us haven't said one way or the other. We're
Right.
still debating,
Right.
what can we do? If we took a
Straw poll.
we can go over all of this, but if we're easily persuaded as a group to do a minimum, you have to clear out the top of your trees. I mean.
Right, no, I get it, like, so
That's
I was hoping we'd get through, okay, so that's in 4.5, right? So I was hoping we'd get through the stuff like 1, 2, and 3, and 4 now, because those are the, at least 1, 2, and 3 are the, just get through them, and then, yeah, so we can all decide what we want to do with the, like, basically the splits and the, okay, does that make sense?
Well, and if I may respond to Shelley, I think I like where you were going in your thought process. And I would like to take action sooner rather than later, but I'm sorely missing Jeff Harms here tonight.
Yeah, and I did talk to Jeff, so he would, well, he does not really want to mess with private roads.
Either.
Yeah, at least the 4.5 part of it, right? So you still have to do the rest of it, because we're kind of at a huge disadvantage with what to do with people who have lots right now. We have to get through that part.
Right, I think you will in just a moment. I'm sorry to speak out of line, but I think based on what Brian said, if we have to go back and draft the language to capture, I think if we can go section by section and then we get the input, it would be more helpful for us rather than from jumping. Okay, how about this? For section 4.2, safe harbor for certain non-conforming access, what are we trying to do with this section is we are trying to pull the non-conforming private roads, not the non-compliant ones, non-conforming ones, and then we are saying that they are grandfathered.
Right.
Because they've gone through the process, they've did everything by the ordinance, they got the permits. So what this one is saying is that they are they're okay.
Yes.
They're grandfathered.
But if we decide to grandfather everyone, and so to speak, then this isn't even need to be here. Like,
Then
we would have to
revise
put
it.
it for everyone.
Yeah, then we would revise it. The reason why, because for example, Violet Ridge, the one you approved just last meeting, it was 18 feet wide. If the ordinance gets adopted, that would be a non-conforming. So, any questions or comments in this section?
Okay, okay.
Can we start with 4.1?
Oh, I thought we would have
Well,
been moved on.
All right,
Wait, we did 4.1. We can go back to 4.1.
I missed 4.1, I'm sorry.
Okay, so 4.1, go ahead, John.
So, sorry, in 4.1A, it says may not, I think it should say may or may not. And in 4.1C, I would like to know what is meant by with an emphasis on non-compliant private roads. I don't know what that means.
In C?
Well, okay, so with C, good question, but C might just go away.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Depending
Okay.
on what we're doing 4.1.
So we can come back to that.
Yes, that's fine, yes.
All right.
So 4.2, very specific.
Yeah, I echo John's comment, and I had that circled as for Sri and Matt, whether, what we're going to do with this variance or grandfathering clause. I'd like to see that in the intent right up front, so everybody doesn't have to read all the fine print to get to what the actual intention is.
All right, back to 4.2. Oh, Dan, go ahead, sorry.
I have a question for Sri. You mentioned the non-conforming versus non-compliant. Do you know what the percentage of roads are non-compliant versus non-conforming?
So I think we talked about it. We have the date as everything that's established after 2021. So that's when we had Carlisle Watman issue some shared driveway permits, and then since I started, I've issued less than 10. So not many non-conforming ones. There might be, once again, just to be sure that any private roads that are part of site condominiums, this wouldn't apply. I mean, they all have permits because they got a site plan approval. I don't have the ratio. I know we have 43 non-compliant private roads, which was part of the spreadsheet. And then we may have about, I'm just throwing the ballpark number out there, 10, I did 10, maybe my predecessor did another 10, maybe 20 non-conforming roads and shared driveways.
To that point, if there's a split, or I want to build on a vacant property, I still need to get a road permit, correct? Or is that just, we've written that in, I thought we needed it for Washington?
So Washtenaw County only requires a permit for if they're doing any work in the right-of-way, in their right-of-way, not the private road access easement. They only require a permit if they're doing any curb cuts or anything within their right-of-way, which is Washtenaw County. Like, for example, if a property from a lot that Friends on a Violet Ridge comes and asks for a split, that's non-conforming, that's an approved private road. So it meets the frontage requirements, the split would be approved administratively.
Okay. All right. So 4.2, as it stands,
Goes away.
it would go away if we do the other part. But otherwise, let's say it doesn't go away. I don't think any of us have a problem with it anyway, right?
Well, I wrote a note in the margins that I guess I would address to Matt as far as equal protection. I mean, this to me seems like, well, since I did them, they're okay, but anyone before me, they're not okay.
Right, the critical distinction is the safe harbor are actually constructed in full compliance with the ordinance when it existed in that time frame. And the problem facing the township now is that you have those 43 non-compliant private roads that never met the ordinance standards. And so from an equal protection
May have
perspective,
been built before the ordinance even existed.
maybe, but from an equal protection standpoint, that's one class of access, meeting the actual standards of the ordinance when it was built, and the other class would potentially challenge and say, hey, we're being treated differently. It's like, well, you're not actually the same because you're 12 feet wide, not 18 or 20 feet wide, and that's a substantial difference.
Mark, if I can. I know I met with one of the residents on West Pillar, and then they indicated that their road was built before 1992. So that 1992 is when the township adopted the private road ordinance. So they're not non-compliant. They were just built even, like they were compliant because they were built before 1992 when there was no ordinance in place. So would the safe harbor apply? Is that your question, John?
I just wrote equal protection because it just didn't pass the smell test for me.
So for equal protection, then would that mean that if any road was built before 1992, should they be treated the same way as the roads that have gotten a permit?
So, no. If, in this situation with a 1992 road built before the ordinance comes into effect, but then you pass a police power ordinance that doesn't grandfather that road, it is now non-compliant. You could cite it. The township could have cited it as of the date that ordinance was passed. It's now not compliant with that police power ordinance, and then required it to come into compliance.
And then I think we get into a can of worms of variances, because if we grant variances, we need to do it equally, right?
The variances, if granted, would have to comply with the standards of the variances that you're granting. And yes, you would want to faithfully apply those
Yeah,
standards.
that seems like a pitfall to me. Something that a future board could end up getting into trouble over.
I don't know if I understand it.
If variances aren't granted equally, if they're granted differently for different property owners.
It sounds to me like Matt is saying that we would create a structure to make sure that didn't happen. That you'd have to, in order to, it's sort of like the zoning board, right? I can grant it if it meets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I think it meets those, and so then I can grant the variance.
Let's stay on this point for a minute. So the whole practical difficulties and unnecessary hardship, that's right out of the ZBA language. And that's what we're invoking here in a blanket sense. So everybody doesn't have to go through this. I mean, so I think 4.3 is to John's point also, that also goes away where we capture in this, I guess we're calling it a grandfathering clause of some sort.
The safe harbor, 4.2.
Well, no, we've talked generally about everybody that's existing has either been built from 4.2 or has an existing lot on a non-compliant access, is that they have to do nothing. They're grandfathered in based on what I would argue is then the practical hardship unnecessary.
No. The only thing that's being grandfathered is your 4.2 safe harbor, which is your 2021 through 2025.
The last 4 years.
Yeah, and I think it should be extended to all existing lots, is my position.
Right.
4.3.
Right. What we have, we're going to get to now. What do you think?
But to put it on that, and then I think we can also come back to the equal protection in just a bit, I think. But I just needed some guidance on, 4.3, improvements on existing vacant lots. I felt that it was a general consensus to allow for them to build a house without triggering any upgrades to the road, which is what reflected in the draft that is for your consideration. I did hear from Jeff, who's not at the meeting today, about some concerns he has about,
4.3B.
Yeah.
Right, 4.3B. What this one says is a private road shall not be required, a permit shall not be required for issuance of zoning compliance permit for construction for non-compliant or non-conforming private road or shared driveway where both the following requirements are met. The first one says the proposed use, construction or improvement complies with the standards governing non-conforming lots, which is pretty straightforward. If there's a non-conforming lot, the zoning ordinance allows them to build a house as long as it meets all the other setbacks and everything, or gets the variances. The second one is an optional one where we also said that maybe we use that opportunity to identify if there are any minimal improvements made along the frontage of the property to make the situation a person better than existing. Maybe a little bypass, or an extra wide driveway so that the fire truck can turn around at that location, or a sharpness in a dry hydrant, or
Like what we did with Rob Mitchell's, where there was we had him have a little bit of a wider, just, right at the road part.
right. So there are two ways to do it. A couple ways I've heard. One is that you guys, the board can decide what you want to see and then take the AFD fire chief recommendation out of the equation. I guess on a scale of 1 to 3, 1, take away the whole B and then just allow them to build a house just like the zoning ordinances allows them. And option 2 would be keep the emergency services accessibility so that we have some allowance to make some improvement, which is maybe 1% better than existing situation, but then take DFD out of the picture so that the expectations are clear. That way, when somebody reads the ordinance, it's like, okay, I don't know what the DFD fire chief is going to say. So they won't know what it is until they make
Well, hold on. If I may, I'm sorry, but B, A and D can be combined. And I would probably delete reference to fire code.
Yeah.
The fire chief will make reference to that as necessary, but it's really about how the chief is viewing the access opportunities or limitations. And these are both may, it's not a shall, so there may be an ask to do something to improve the accessibility.
My comment, if we're going to ask residents to improve, is that, like in government acquisition programs, there's 2 phases. There's initial acquisition and there's sustainment. In other words, you pay to build it and you pay to maintain it. I'm reluctant to ask them to build something new if there's no clause in there to keep it up. And for the existing lot owners, I would lean towards Shree's option 1. Let them build it, is my thought. And let's just move on. Now, if there's lot splits involved, because this entire process is really derived to have a developer. Since Tony's coming, the developer planning to put all these houses in, they know exactly what we wanted from roads, and all that would be built into the costing structure. We've lost that for all these cases due to non-enforcement. And if there is splits on, that's where I think the sliding scale makes sense. One split we get very little, maybe something like Shree has talked about, and the more splits, maybe there's more turnaround like John's talked about, or something along those lines, and if you do that, I'd like to see a maintenance requirement in place, like the Mitzel case. You ask them to make those improvements, but it could turn into an overgrown 2-track in 5 years. There's no requirement right now for that to change. So I don't want the money spent in vain. If you're going to ask them to do it, let's make sure it stays that way for future residents. If we're not going to do that, I wouldn't even ask.
Okay, so I guess as a group, we're in favor of minimal requirements for access when you already have a vacant lot on an existing private road. At least compared to splits.
Yeah, I mean, that's a David Joseph case. Talk to us every meeting.
Okay, 4.4 is the split one, so.
Oh, the splits, yeah. 4.3 is.
So 4.3, I kind of redid the things that something you guys were thinking?
I mean, the figure tree?
Right.
Yeah, I like that for 4.4 personally.
4.3, where if you don't want, if you want to get rid of, if that's where the board's leading, then this is how it would read. That, you know, it's not required if you're improving a vacant lot, as long as it, you know, it complies with the standards governing non-conforming lots in township zone ordinance, and then you would just get rid of it.
Well, I mean, B, just straight B, I think we should at least demonstrate that it provides for access. Like, I mean, it's not a horrible requirement. I don't think that's particularly onerous.
Yeah, I think this is where the question of reasonableness comes in.
Yeah.
And I think it's, if there's a challenge that's deemed, that the fire chief sees that is an impediment to, you know, safety and services, I think it's a reasonable ask to have a property owner who's proposing to build a $250,000 home or more, or maybe less, I don't know, but to spend, if a wider driveway helps the fire chief enable him to move vehicles simultaneously, I think that's reasonable to ask for that property owner and for their neighbors, because it may not be only servicing their home, it might be servicing the home across the street. Now the neighbor may say, hey, neighbor across the street, I've got to spend an extra $10,000 or whatever it is to do something, maybe it's less, I have no idea. But hey, it's going to help all of us. Can you help split that with me or chip in something? That's reasonable. And it helps improve the safety of the community.
But isn't that an easier discussion if there's a split involved? I mean, I view the resident will likely know that at the time they purchased the property. I wouldn't. I see your point. I take your point.
They have owned it for 30 years.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I take your point. Are we going to ask them then to maintain it at that level? I mean, say what we come up with, so you make them put in, what, a 16-foot driveway instead of 12? Or is what you were thinking?
That was a suggestion you were offering, so reasonable.
I'm open to that. I'm more open to it when the split's involved.
I think if we do wanted to move towards that direction, option 2, then there has to be some standards of review so that we are making administratively consistent decisions as when, because if it's a condition of approval, that's discretionary. Is that something you would trust an administrative personnel make that call? What kind of condition? Or is it something where the fire chief said, I have a concern, then the administrative person brings that to you guys to make that discretionary condition?
I think most of it, based on what we're saying, seems like it could be administrative. You know, to me, I think if you're going to do a split and we tell you, you know, the trees are a little bit, they're too low hanging, we really need you. If the township came to me and said the fire people couldn't get in here because my trees were too low hanging, I would cut them. I think most people want to do what's right. I wouldn't cut down my tree, but I would, you know, make sure that the umbrella was enough for vehicles. But what is the minimum required that we would expect there to be safety for?
14 feet.
I don't mean just the trees, I mean the trees and what else?
Oh, I'm sorry to...
Well, we focused a lot on roads and on the size of roads. What is, if we're gonna say we're gonna grant you a permit and you're saying there needs to be some kind of way for you to say yes to it, right?
If we are keeping B in, when somebody's just trying to build a house, there needs to be more thought into it because it's very discretionary, it can be subjective, so there has to be guidelines if that decision is being made by an administrator.
Like, so I understand what you're saying. So something like along the lines of an ability for a fire truck to turn around. That kind of thing, like something that's...
Like what, how would that fire chief make that determination?
Oh, it wouldn't be him, that's part of the thing. I mean, that's the problem. He won't do it.
Yeah, who would be making the determination? information.
Well, we did it last time, which is part of the problem. If
So
we
we
want to
did-
give it to you, then,
Right.
yeah, we have
I
to come up
just
with.
feel like that thing that may create some inconsistencies if we don't have like, okay, what triggers the condition? Is it number of incidents that's happening, or is it the width of the road? And it also gets complicated if we are talking about improvements that are outside the frontage of the person building the road, then he needs to work with his neighbors, who may be or may not be unwilling.
Yeah, and that's where I think the whole discussion devolves from that point. And I think all the points have merit. I would just take it out. I mean, we've been bantering this back and forth now. It's been the same discussion for almost 6 months or more. I think it goes away.
I do, honestly, for me, I'd take it out.
I would recommend that too, because it's consistent with the zoning ordinance, where when it's a non-conforming lot and somebody's just trying to build a house, the zoning ordinance is giving them that break.
Right.
Or else we have to really put a lot of thought into, again, what triggers it, once it triggers it, who makes the decision, if they don't like the decision, who do they go to appeal? It just opens up that whole.
It's almost like, at some point, it'll wind up being what we have now,
Yes.
Yeah,
which
so-
we don't want.
So every new split, though, I think this discussion is on point.
Right, so but before we move on to the new splits, I want to know where the board stands on eliminating B.
For 4 points.
I'm sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to.
No, exactly.
But I think we just need the
Yes.
clarity so that we can, and then also David has been attending these meetings, and then they would like the clarity.
Yeah, no,
Take it out. My view, take it out.
Okay. John, have a comment on?
So for B, I put no next to A, and no next to B, and okay next to C. So I'm a no on A, a no on B, and I'm okay with C.
Oh, Steve's actually, because we do want to like inform people, all the people, about what's going on, I think.
Okay. So we just give them a letter of information purposes, like just so you know, this is what your road looks like.
And you've had feedback on that. There's been some road owners that are looking to upgrade or are interested possibly.
I did. I think that we can, that comes when we talk about Article 5.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so, yeah, we.
Tony?
You can strike B.
I figured that. I know Tony's answer. Okay, Dan and Shelley.
Well, based on my prior comment, I like some combination B, and if the review occurs and there's a document provided, and residents choose not to do improvements to enhance the safety and accessibility, well then, that's will essentially be on them.
So we would combine B and C and then provide, like, for your information letter to the resident, and it's up to him if he wants to accept the recommendation or go ahead and ask for it. And then move on at his own risk.
Oh, it looks like you're thinking. Anything else?
I am okay with that,
Okay.
but I was wondering if it's just an opportunity, if somebody was splitting a lot on my property, or on my street, and the determination was that the fire truck can't easily turn around, or my trees were too low, or, up until this point, I didn't know what the safety guidelines were for my road. If somebody is splitting or building on my road, maybe it's an opportunity to send something to the people on the road. They don't have to do anything. It's just a learning point for them, because maybe they do want to include that in their maintenance, and they didn't know to.
And I think that's, some of that, like, so 4.5 has like the informational part too,
Yeah.
so we can keep that part.
Shelley, do you have a homeowners association?
No, we just actually get along. Which I know is not. I know that's not true.
Is there any kind of written
Oh, you know what? That's not true. We do have a homeowners association, and we did not think we had a maintenance agreement until one of the people came forward to try to build and expand what was really supposed to be a shared driveway, but had more than 4 houses on it. And to do that, they produced a road agreement, which was actually my road agreement. It was from like the 1980s.
So to me, and stop me if you don't want me to talk about your private road, but your private road to me is one that it's seriously less than what's prescribed in this document. But I think that it's completely usable except for one glaring thing. There's no turnaround at the end.
So, yeah, that's true. There is no turnaround. I think there was a turnaround and it got taken out because nobody knew what the intent of that was.
In my opinion, if you had a turnaround, you'd be golden.
Well, you might think that, but the beginning of the road is a little bit different than the end
It's
of the road.
very narrow, I measured it, but it's big enough for a truck to come in.
I know. Lots of
And if you had a turnaround, trucks could come in, leave water, and leave as long as they had a turnaround.
But
And that's the big deficit on your
Right,
road.
but that's what I mean. If you tell me that,
Right.
if I would have known that 4 years ago, when I repaved the road, we would have put that in. I'm sure we would have put that in, but we didn't know. So that's what I'm saying, there's an opportunity to help us, you know, maybe we would have.
And your road is a really poster child for how many trees would have to die if it was brought up to,
Well, that front part, that's one person's property. The rest of it is empty. The rest of our road has clearance.
but
Yeah, you're
a
right.
lot of trees would have to come up.
A lot of everything, yeah. There's also, a part of the creek is there, not officially, but a little branch off of it.
Okay, so, yeah. All right, so I think we're good with 4.3. So splits. Go ahead.
I have a new screen that says, you know, when somebody's trying to build a house, they have to make sure that, you know, the compliance with zoning ordinance. And then the other one is the other suggestion where you said we would just send a letter of notice to everybody. And this is just a letter of notice with recommendations. And then, you know, it does not require compliance with any or all recommendations, but it's just a notice telling them this is the condition of your road, just so you know.
That looks good to me.
What are you looking at, Sri? 'Cause I
Oh,
think
she's talking while we're talking.
I'm editing it so that I can capture your,
I was gonna say, that's not what you left on my desk.
no, I'm doing it live so that it,
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay. So splits. So I think I have to start with who's in for making anyone do anything when they split? Because at this point, it's, obviously you are.
Well, so, just by summary, so if you talk to the fire safety professionals, what they're gonna tell you, we've talked to the fire chief numerous times, and they're gonna say, in the absence of anything outside this discussion, if there's no fire hydrants, you have to get water to the fire as fast as possible. That means tankers are doing this back and forth. And the worry is, if one structure goes up, I'm gonna make sure it stays contained to that structure. So the faster you get the water there, the more likely it stays contained there. So, because the worst case scenario is it jumps from one to the next. And personally, the thing that keeps me up at night is we keep building and other splits happen, there's accessory structures that go up, and I look around my neighborhood, like my neighbor's barn went. I want to make sure that thing got put out quickly as possible for, especially if the wind was to the east, which it normally is, that it happens as quickly as possible. So it isn't as if it's being brought up just to be some ad hoc basis to be annoying. That's what he'll say every time. He'll say 16 or 18 feet, and I want to have the trucks going as quickly as I can. And then to what the other points that Dan and John has made, is if they can't, they have to then be able to turn around. So having some turnaround, or, Dan, to your point, a larger driveway that would allow that. Because the chief talked to me about fighting a fire like up in Base Lake, a fire where Mr. Burnell lives, as to how they fight a fire there. And because there are no turnarounds, and it would be a K-turn.
But there's water.
But if you were trying to get in and out, you'd have to be able to make a K-turn to do it. So having the ability to turn around, have the truck go to wherever is of interest. So that's where I think this discussion has merit.
All right, so 4.4, so Sri and Matt, just so I can get the, kind of the idea. So 4.4 kind of is directed at the person trying to split. right? And then 4.5 is the rise, okay.
Yeah, it is
So-
directed at that with a question for the board.
Right,
Because in the last discussion, we didn't get quite clarity about where the board stood.
right.
So I have the image in front of you where we said, okay, we have two situations. The first one is where a resident is proposing a split that does not require any extension. The option 2 is where he's doing a split that would require an extension of the road. When it requires an extension of a road, it's obvious that he's responsible for building the extension, not the entire, all the other people on the road. That's clear. Applicant's responsibility, they should propose the extension. And then, so the question for the board, which is in the memo, is, are we grandfathering the lighter gray part, which is the remaining road that is outside?
Well, wait, let's go, sorry.
Right.
I totally understand, but
So
we're
that's
gonna
the
stick with
question I
the
had.
dark gray part first.
Okay.
All right, so, the dark gray part, so this is, if you're gonna split in one of these two situations, then we, as a group, want that person to bring their portion up to the private road standards, or ask for a variance if they can.
Yes.
So that's the dark gray part on the, so just leaving aside the rest of it. So if you're in the middle of the road and you're splitting, because this is one of those, we have an opportunity to make it a little bit better without messing with everybody else on the road. Okay.
I have comments, but I was the first.
Oh, okay. So that's, I guess, the question. So does anyone, I know Tony's answer, which is good, okay. So what do you guys think about that?
So the only thing that keeps popping in, I don't know the answer. They're two sort of different situations, right? There's one where the road exists, and they're splitting it, and the frontage is the road that was already there. Would I like them to improve it? Yes, but.
Well, at least it would give,
I can be persuaded either way.
So I'm sorry, I'm thinking because in that case, so let's say the road is narrow, but we have now property along it, and we can make that wider, at least now we have a passing zone, right? If you look at it that way, which still makes it better than it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that does make sense. The other thing is, and I think it's in here, I know it's in here, but I can't find it right now. But we put in something about coal tar, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important, it's part of the master plan, there's a lot of pieces about that, it's being outlawed by lots of other townships and cities already. I do think that whatever we do, we still have to keep that.
Yeah, that's in
Not
5.
change it as a requirement,
Yeah,
is what
that's
I
in
mean.
5.
So whatever we do, the non-coal tar thing, I think is still critical.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to fall back on my reasonable argument. I think in this case, it is very reasonable to ask of a property owner who's splitting their land to do something, and discuss what that may be. And the reason being is they are now adding additional burden to the others along the private road, additional use, and as a result, it would be reasonable to ask them to do something to help improve whatever the deficit may be. And there may be none, or it's very, very minimal. But I think that's, and in fact, from a legal standpoint, one of your neighbors could object to land split based on the language of the easement. So, in doing this, you as a property owner may want to get approval from neighbors, and that part of that may be, oh, hey, to get approval, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z to improve our road. Again, it seems reasonable.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, and then I'm with Dan.
Can I ask a quick question? I don't think I understood what you said from a legal perspective of neighbors that object to your split based on the easement.
Depending on the language of the easement, if you're burdening me by increased use, the easement may, and again, it depends on the easement language.
Oh, I
It may,
see. Yeah, it's like
it
the
may allow
overlap.
me to say, hey, you can't do that split.
Right.
Because you need my permission because you're using my property via the access easement area.
Right.
And then kind of, for us anyway, here would be, because we have, sometimes we have the big parcels on the end of the road, right? So depending on how many splits, right? So I think that's where that was coming from. I agree. Okay.
What happened?
I keep getting kicked out.
So, okay.
So I was looking forward to talking about that picture. Because on the diagram on the right, yeah, so before that proposed lot split, that was one horizontal parcel on the right.
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 The other one. The drawing to the right.
The other way.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So now there's one parcel that's far back from the public road at the end of a private road. And I just wanted to use this because it really highlights previous comments I've made about abutting. That doesn't abut. That goes straight into a horizontal single parcel, forget the split. But it should be buildable in my mind, even though it doesn't have frontage.
Just wanted to add clarification. The definition of frontage in the zoning ordinance has a different standard when the lot is along a straight road versus when the lot is on a cul-de-sac. So the width requirement for frontage is much lesser when it's on a cul-de-sac than on a straight road.
John, I would also assume that there's a private road easement, or there's an easement that gets to the original horizontal parcel you're referencing.
Right, but
And it may,
the private road abuts,
it may
the
extend.
private road abuts to
I mean, you don't
parcel.
In this case, it has easement area around a cul-de-sac.
But the way that we define abutting is the line, the parcel line abuts to a road.
So that's one scenario. Another is where the easement actually extends into the property already.
Or abutting, so abutting, let me, sorry, for example. So abutting can also be abutting the end of the road.
Right, so
Is that
they,
That's not the way it's written.
And that's in the zoning.
that's the way it's written, but the image only shows one example, but we can include an image that shows abutting on a cul-de-sac.
But that was, wait, so you're saying that's
It's
not how
defined in
it's
the zoning ordinance.
zoning ordinance.
It's defined in the zoning ordinance as the edge of the property abutting the road that's going alongside that property line.
So that
And this
sounds-
diagram shows the road abutting into
Okay.
the property.
Yes, so that sounds like something we would then send to the zoning, like, if we don't like that, we should send it to the BC. Because yes, it should be clear that it should also include the end, abutting the end of the road. So if you don't think it does, we can.
Well, we should make sure these two documents are consistent.
Right, yeah, so that's the thing. When we're done, I think we're probably gonna pass them.
So I got the last.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I just have to say one thing about this diagram. So Shri, could you do me a favor when we redo it? So I'm a little confused, not confused, I'm sorry, I don't want anyone else to be confused, about the circle.
Yeah,
I think the circle should go up. Okay, that was it.
The circle should be what?
No, I meant so that, just see this part, it looks like it's on this property.
Right.
That way
So
it's
just
fixed, so
stick it
just, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so Dan, to comment on your point, I'm in agreement. I think the reasonableness standard, we tend to think if you just widen the road, and then split, that'll be easy. The challenge with that, though, is could be the utilities. And we've seen that on the public roads. If you want to put ditching in, for example, on a road that hasn't been ditched in 20 years, Gregory and Z, for example, it's then expensive because we don't know where that is. I think I think we should have some standards so we have the reasonable standard there. But I think a turnaround, even for a K-turn, either on the right document or on the right image or the left image would be a huge asset. And I'm less concerned about widening the road, for example, but making sure a truck could get in, and if the road wasn't wide enough, because it's going to be narrow in other places, it has a place it can get now. And if we do it, there's a maintenance agreement that has to be maintained to stay that way. We don't just require it in the beginning. There's some commitment that it'll be there for other owners and so on.
Okay, so the maintenance agreement, so Sri was telling me about, for these situations, the person who splits would have to do a maintenance agreement
The
for
splits.
his split, so they would have to maintain the other part.
But just a point of clarification, Brian, so that wouldn't require a maintenance agreement for all the other owners because there might be unwilling ones.
Yeah.
But the one who's doing the splits, between the two new splits, they have to have one.
And I think if it's in their control, it's outside of where the utilities are, put in a turnaround if you're at the end, like we did with Rob, that's all. Or in the image to the left, we have larger driveways in parts somewhere that a truck could do a K-turn or, yeah.
I do think we need, so I agree with, we're gonna have, these people may have, problems with their utilities, and I think that's where the variance could come in from.
Yeah, fair enough, absolutely.
Okay, so I think we're pretty good with this.
So
All
we're
right.
good with it, with this, with saying that this is a good opportunity to make some improvements, at least along the frontage, like the ordinance is written. We'll get into the language, but
Right.
conceptual, okay.
All right, so 4.5,
So,
okay,
all right, some improvements, that's great. Just a question, have we, is there a definition for child parcels? Do we need that?
No, it's a term of art in the land division. So your parent parcel would be your long rectangle.
I understand what they are, but I think we should provide
You
some
call it
clarity
the new
around that.
lots created.
Sorry?
Maybe I can replace that with new lots created, rather than calling it child parcels.
Okay.
The new lots created.
And then in C, it's referring to figure E, which I believe is A, so we need to just catch that. And then on these, the figure document, I think we should title what these are referring to. So for example, the left one is no extension, and the right is extension, if that's still applicable. That will help. Thank you.
Can I ask a question when we're doing all this back and forth? The light gray, all owners' responsibility, is
Yeah, well-
that being stricken?
well, we're gonna get to that in a
That's
second.
what
So yes, if we do what I think we're gonna do, yes, that would be strict.
Yes.
Okay.
Answer is yes.
Mike, I know I might be extending the time, but then I know people from Merkle Court have come twice before you guys, and then Dan also raised a point that kind of reflects on what the issue they had. So if I may, can I just quickly summarize? I think the issue, what happened with Merkle Court was, there is an access easement in existence, and then there's also a road maintenance agreement in existence. The corner lot that's fronting on Merkle Road and Merkle Court have abutted Merkle Road, and then they also abut the access easement on
Right.
road. They came in, they applied for 2 splits, which was approved, and then they built houses, but instead of pulling the driveways from Merkle Road, they pulled the driveways from Merkle Court.
Right, yeah.
So the issue, what happened there was that they are not part of the agreement, but they are part of the easement.
Got it.
So the existing residents didn't have any idea this all happened
Right.
until the driveway was built.
Right.
So I think that's what, if you are proposing to put a driveway access to an existing road, I think the existing resident should be aware that that's happening. So that they can say, no, you can't put the driveway here unless you be part of a maintenance agreement.
Thank you.
Is there, okay, I have a question on that, Matt. Where the washout is really close to Merkle Road, which is public.
Oh, no, Merkle Court.
No, but
Let me finish. I mean, I've been up there, I know exactly where it's at, but the transition from Merkle Court to
Oh, yeah, it's a very
Merkle,
Yes.
are we allowed to fund the transition space between those two?
Are we allowed to?
Could the township use public funds to address that issue?
It's in Washington County right away.
Right, yeah, it's in the public road right away.
That's what I kind of thought, if it's in the public road right away.
But let me ask you a question, because the reason why that exists is that,
Off topic.
What?
Off topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, we are at the, what do we do with the people, so, who are on the rest of the road? But, okay, so.
Can I get an answer on that?
What, no, the answer is yes.
Oh, yes.
I think we-
Fair.
yeah. So, all right, 4.5, so we have the notice part, which we all seem to like, right? Everybody wants to tell people who are on private roads what's wrong with it. Yes, okay. So then the question is, and I think it's the other way around.
Could I,
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
on 4.5B, could we use a different word than violative? Could it be non-conforming or non-compliant? I'd like the language to be consistent.
4.5.
Yeah, non-compliant, B,
The last sentence.
Violative is the word I don't like.
We're not gonna do any of this if it's based on what we just grandfathered in. Right now,
This would be stricken.
All
So
the-
this is for the dark gray part, which I think you decided that
Oh,
we'll
fair
need some
enough. Fair
improvements.
enough.
Yeah, so,
It is the entire road, but this can apply,
Okay.
we can revise it to just the
I like that even better.
so, okay, so if I'm reading everyone correctly, or at least the majority correctly, we would like to get rid of almost all of 4.5, except for the,
Part that, applies to dark gray.
right, and then, except for the part where we will, so I personally would like to leave in notice for the people on the road. I don't know if we have to put anything specific in there about whether, if we have, so some of the people would like the roads, like, updated, at least from what, we had a couple. And, so their ability to do so they could ask for a special assessment, right?
Yep.
We don't have to put that in the ordinance, Matt, or we could do not. Okay, so that's fine. So if we just put the notice part in here, it will take care of then we'll just wait for requests if we have it.
I think we may have to rewrite 4.4 and 4.5, depending on what you decide on the light gray part.
Right, so I think the light gray part.
Yeah, going over the language now may not.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking so that's what I mean so this is just the general, at this point, I think at least the majority would not like to have the other owners on the road have to bring the rest of the road up to compliance.
Is that,
Is that the?
Yeah, for all the grandfather cases we've been talking about.
Right, and that's what Jeff would, I know he's not here, but.
But so, what I think then, if I understand it correctly, when I look at 4.5, because now we have sort of two different groups of people, one, like, say if you look at the first proposed lot splits picture, they are going to create a road agreement between the two of them in the way that we're looking. So B under 4.5 does apply. We're not gonna get rid of it, but it doesn't apply to light gray.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That's where we need to restructure it, okay.
Right. So I think then we would still do the letter of notice, but it would be similar to what we did for the vacant lots. We would get rid of the notice period because we're not sending any notice to the existing property owners. So there's, I think, 3, 4, and then D would go away, and we would revise this to apply to the dark gray part.
Okay.
Can I yeah. So on the notice, thoughts, Matt, so you're talking to the fire chief, he's being called by various insurance companies asking about like fire code standards and so on before some of the houses are getting underwritten. And various fire chiefs may have various opinions there. But I can see in that context that there's a group that wants to come to us, that wants to have it approved to address that question. So having letters of notice go out to everybody, I think is a good thing. Dark gray and light gray.
Right. I think that's the intent, that it would go out to everybody.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so you'll work on it.
Yes.
All right.
So the intent then is, all current private roads and shared driveways that are actually private roads are going to be grandfathered in their existing status. If there's a split, they're gonna upgrade to the standards of this ordinance.
Only for the splitter.
Splitter, right, for the
Yep.
splitter portion. And if there's and in that instance, we will notify everyone who's using that road, that, hey, you don't have to do anything because you're grandfathered, but you don't conform.
Right, but it's, yes, it would be a good idea if you put it, okay, I think that's,
Maybe in that letter, we can indicate if you do want to do upgrades, we can talk about it.
right, okay. All right. So, I'm glad we got through that part, because I know, I mean, again, I'm on many calls, okay. So, oh, not yet, I'm sorry. No.
We're getting there, though.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
We are getting there, okay. So, I guess to clarify for, in case this helps, and you don't have to answer the question, is so if you're on a road and someone else wants to split, it's on them to improve their part. And the rest of you are just gonna get a, hey, you know, it's not, if you wanna, you know, it's not wide enough, or whatever.
Just so you know.
So, now there is a maintenance part we're getting to too, which is gonna address John's part about just keeping the brush clean kind of thing. So, all right, so appeals 5.1, sounds like that's just not a big deal for us, right?
I'm fine.
Let's just do appeal, so 5.1.
The word "from," I don't understand that sentence in the first line. Appeals from, maybe I'm not reading the sentence correctly.
Appeals from any administrative official or body under this ordinance.
So maybe then we can probably say, take this off from here and say, shall peer review and decide.
I hear what you're saying, John, it's a little awkward.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. I tried to read it different ways and I couldn't make sense of it.
I think we can get rid of and review. Hear and decide.
Yeah, I think that would make it a lot clearer. So, what, John, so if it said, shall hear and decide appeals from any administrative order, that would make it a lot clearer, I think. But you got that part now?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And I would suggest in the line 4, changing support to supporting and moving it in front of the word document so that it reads, and any supporting documents, period. And then I asked the general question, so this is all about applicants. What about non-applicants? What if somebody else is doing something and I don't like it, I'm a neighboring parcel? Do I get to appeal? Because that's not mentioned at all.
That would be a violation. Appeal is only,
If we're going to notify neighbors, right, something's going to happen, we're going to send out letters. I get a letter, I don't want this thing to happen, whatever it is. What is my appeal?
then if that thing is approved, then you can appeal that approval. Right? Like if I approved a land split and one of the neighbors is not in agreement with it, he can appeal the decision?
Last sentence, John, an applicant effective, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm talking about non-applicants.
Right, I understand, I misread this. So it would be, or it should be, to your point, anybody that, on that private road that is affected by whatever the decision is.
Isn't that what B says?
No, so.
Any party aggrieved by a
Party
decision of
agreed,
the
so
board?
that should be both, right? Or no?
I think you said any, like, can you give us an example, John? Like, is it like if he's parking cars?
This describes an appeals process for an applicant, but it doesn't apply, it didn't.
mean,
So I think what John,
The non-applicant has no appeal process. If they don't like it, their remedy is to sue for overburdening the easement. They sue their neighbor because now the neighbor is violating the easement.
And isn't
I
that
don't
what
know
we
if-
says?
I don't
That's your
know if-
neighbors?
There is a way to grant some sort of appeal or this, it'd be almost like bringing an action to the township for why they should not grant the split.
yeah, it's not a rezoning ZBA thing or anything, so it's just straight up a split.
Right.
Yeah, because if they're doing a lot split and they seek a variance, then it's a public hearing.
those adjoining landowners can certainly come to the meeting here to speak to any public comment if they like.
But they should be aware that there's a meeting happening, that they're gonna talk about that.
And that notification is guaranteed, is it not?
But I mean, there's no hearing. If you're splitting a lot, and then I'm gonna improve in front of my two new lots, that's all administrative approvals.
Then there's no hearing.
There's no hearing, and there's no hearing to create.
Fair enough.
I mean, that'd be weird, I guess. Maybe it's possible to have the zoning administrator have a hearing in front of herself. But that's,
If there's complaints, can the zoning administrator then refer to the board?
They would go to enforcement.
there's no, again, there's nothing to refer to the board.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we could build something if you want to try and have something, but
No, I don't think we have a very specific reason why. You can't just tell people you disagree with their property, what they want to do with it when it's not violating something specific. If it's violating something specific, then we use that ordinance to enforce it.
Right.
Otherwise, they go to court and sue. That doesn't involve us if they're unhappy.
That is how you should, you know.
All right, fair enough for me.
Okay,
I
so,
mean, the violations does cover if somebody's parking trucks in the right of way, or
Yeah, that'll be
if they put rocks in the easement, then it's a violation.
yeah, so it's basically, yeah, the split, they can't really do anything about it. But if they're, yeah, when we get to the violations about not keeping it clear or, okay. All right, so 5.2, so I had, because, you know, when we went to, are we changing violations to, oh, yeah, okay, never mind. Containment, because that's what we did.